This meeting is being recorded.
The notice requirement provided for the open public meeting law has been satisfied. Notice was properly given. Said notice have been transmitted to the Courier News on January 12, 2022, as well as posting on the city's website. Mr. Clerk, we have a roll call for tonight's meeting, please.
Council members Davis.
Present.
McKenna. Can't hear you, McKenna. Hockaday.
Present.
Oh, Lord, what's it?
Mills Ransom.
Present.
Briggs Jones.
Present.
Vice President McCray.
Present.
Council President Good.
Present.
Oh.
We have all members present at a quorum.
Oh, Lord, I did something.
Okay. Motion to approve combined session for June 13th, special meeting June 30th, combined session for July 11th, and combined session for October the 11th of this year.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion has been approved for the combined special and the other two combined meetings. Discussion items. I will now yield the floor to our BA, Levinson. 2022 best practice
Okay,
inventory.
thank you. Thank you.
I apologize.
No problem. I am looking. Okay, so we did submit the 2022 best practices to the DCA as is required.
I'm sorry, BA Levinson, you're muted. We didn't hear the, oh, she did that. She did it purposely. Or did she? Oh, okay.
I apologize. We did submit the 2022 best practices to the DCA as is required by us annually, and all questions were answered by all the department heads. We all worked collaboratively on it. It was submitted on time, and we just wanted to give an update to the council that has been done.
Okay. Are you done?
Yeah, we're done.
Okay.
That's it. If anyone had any questions, we would, be happy to answer them.
Any questions from the governing body for BA Levinson at this time? If there are none, we will move on to consideration of public hearing, second reading, and final passage. Mr. Clerk, can you please read MC 2022-48 by its title and further certify that the ordinance has complied with all statutory publication requirements, please?
MC 2022-48 is an ordinance of the City of Plainfield in the County of Union, authorizing an amendment to Plainfield City Code Section 17:924A, cannabis-related business, subsection B, paragraph 2, maximum number of licenses. It is hereby certified as notice of the public hearing on this ordinance was published in the Courier News on October 26, 2022.
The floor is now open to any member of the public who would like to speak on this particular ordinance. We have Ms. Piwar. Good evening.
Yes, good
Your
evening.
name and address for the record, please.
Yeah, good evening.
Good
Nancy Pivar, 1129 Myrtle Avenue. First, I'd like to say just a short prayer for the people at UVA, because I know there are residents in town that have students at UVA, and I just want to remember the souls that were lost today there. I would like to speak on MC 2022-48. As I read it and understand it, this ordinance is amending a previous ordinance to increase the number of permitted cannabis facilities under 5 different classes from 5 to 7, and increases the permitted retail establishment of class 5 from 5 to 7. So that totals 14 licenses in all, with the exception of micro businesses. I would like to know the rationale behind the increase from 10 to 14, and why was this new policy decision made? Will this number of licenses remain at 14, or is it anticipated that there will be another increase of licenses in the future? Since micro businesses are an exception, how many micro business licenses are being considered allowed, and what will be the grand total of all cannabis licenses in the city of Plainfield? And how does this number of facilities compare to the other impact zones that the state of New Jersey has designated for Union County, Elizabeth, Hillside, Plainfield, and Roselle? All those municipalities have a high percentage of minority population. I also would like to know, how does this compare to the two neighboring towns that are in two different other counties that border Plainfield? North Plainfield and South Plainfield are also considered impact zone. What exactly are the Plainfield residents getting out of the siting of all these establishments? Do we have 14 doctor's offices still left in the city? Do we have 14 post offices? Do we have 14 train stations? Do we have 14 drugstores? Do we have 14 major chain grocery stores? I feel like Plainfield is being exploited, and once again, what others don't want, Plainfield gets. Thank you very much.
Are there any more questions? With there being no further questions for this particular ordinance, may I have a motion to close the public hearing on this ordinance, please?
So moved.
Second.
May I have a motion to adopt this ordinance on second reading and final passage, and if adopted, the ordinance shall be published as required by law?
So moved.
Seconded.
Mr. Clerk, may I have a roll call, please?
Council members Davis,
Yes.
McKenna,
No.
Hockaday,
Yes.
Mills Ransom,
Yes.
Briggs Jones,
Yes.
Vice President McCray,
Yes.
Council President Good.
Yes.
6 in favor, 1 opposed. This ordinance has been adopted on second reading and final passage.
Mr. Clerk, please read MC 2022-49 by its title and further certify that the ordinance has complied with all the statutory publication requirements, please.
MC 2022-49 is an ordinance approving application for the tax exemption and financial agreement for payment in lieu of taxes for 163 East Front Street Urban Renewal LLC. It is hereby certified that the notice of the public hearing on this ordinance is published in the Courier News on October 26, 2022.
And the floor is now open to any member of the public who would like to speak on this particular ordinance. With there being none, may I have a motion to close the public hearing on this ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
May I have a motion to adopt this ordinance on second reading and final passage, and if adopted, the ordinance shall be published as required by law?
Moved.
Seconded.
Mr. Clerk?
Council members Davis,
No.
McKenna,
No.
Hockaday,
Yes.
Mills Ransom,
Yes.
Briggs Jones,
No.
Vice President McCray,
Yes.
Council President Good.
Yes.
4 in favor, 3 opposed. This ordinance has been adopted on second reading and final passage.
Clerk, please read MC 2022-50 by its title and further certify that the ordinance has complied with all the statutory publication requirements, please.
MC 2022-50 is an ordinance to amend Chapter 6, Building Article 2, Property Maintenance, amending registration requirements and levying a registration fee on owners and creditors of registrable properties. It is hereby certified that the notice of the public hearing on this ordinance is published in the Courier News on October 26, 2022.
The floor is now open to any member of the public who would like to speak on this particular ordinance at this time. And with there being none, may I have a motion to close public comment for the for public comment for this ordinance, please?
So moved.
Second.
May I have a motion to adopt the ordinance on second reading and final passage, and if adopted, the ordinance shall be published as required by law?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Clerk, roll call, please.
Council members Davis,
Yes.
McKenna,
Yes.
Hockaday,
Yes.
Mills Ransom,
Yes.
Briggs Jones.
Yes.
Vice President McCray,
Yes.
Council President Good.
Yes.
That is unanimous. This ordinance has been adopted on second reading and final passage.
Mr. Clerk, please proceed to MC 2022-51 by its title and further certify that the ordinance has complied with all the statutory publication requirements.
MC 2022-51 is an ordinance of the City of Plainfield, County of Union, New Jersey, rescinding Resolution 27920, Ordinance 2022-16, Resolution 35221 in connection with the redevelopment of Block 836, Lot 1, 8 through 1501 by PL 836 Plainfield LLC and a tax exemption granted to PL 836 Plainfield Urban Renewal LLC along with all associated approvals and agreements. It is hereby certified that the notice of public hearing on this ordinance is published in the Courier News on October 26, 2022.
Now the floor is open to any member of the public who would like to speak on this ordinance. With there being none, may I have a motion to close public hearing on this ordinance, please?
So moved.
Second.
May I have a motion to adopt this ordinance on second reading and final passage, and if adopted, the ordinance shall be published as required by law.
So moved. Second.
Mr. Clerk?
Council members Davis,
Yes.
McKenna,
Yes.
Hockaday,
Yes.
Mills Ransom,
Yes.
Briggs Jones,
Yes.
Vice President McCray,
Yes.
Council President Good.
Yes, sir.
That is unanimous. This ordinance has been adopted on second reading and final passage.
Moving right along, we are now with public comments limited to resolutions and motions and ordinances to be introduced on the first reading. A total of 30 minutes has been allocated for public comments limited to resolutions and ordinances only being considered this evening. You wish to be heard, please hit the hand icon to be recognized and you will be unmuted. Once you have been unmuted, please give your name and address for the record. Each speaker will be given 3 minutes. The floor is now open. Again, each speaker will be given 3 minutes. Good evening, Michelle. Your name and address for the record, please.
Hi, is this for comments for stuff that we have, or is that later on?
It's limited to resolutions and motions and ordinances being introduced on the first reading. We will have a public comment at the end of the meeting. However, you're perfectly welcome to come back then.
I will come back then. Thank you.
You're welcome. There doesn't seem to be any, wait a minute, we have one more. Ms. Pewar, your name and address again, please.
Good evening again. Nancy Pewar, 1129 Myrtle Avenue. I would like to speak on resolution R 391-22, which supports the location and operation of a cannabis manufacturing business at 1355 West Front Street, the old Mack Truck Building. As a long-term resident of 4th Ward and West End of Plainfield, which my family settled in the 1940s, my father worked at the old plant and during the war, and my uncle also worked for Mack Truck. I really question the need for an outside venture capitalist firm to come into my neighborhood. Why are these types of investors and companies coming into Plainfield? If they have the money to spend, why not spend and invest on what people in Plainfield need the most, such as a major grocery store, hospital, rescue squad, and chain restaurants? Why are the marketing plans singling out Plainfield as a cannabis destination and not a destination for cultural heritage, youth services, medical services, etc.? Are the majority of citizens going to are the majority of Plainfield residents going to be the ones who are purchasing these cannabis products that are now selling at 400? Marijuana is going for $400 an ounce, as was recently reported at the New Jersey Cannabis Regulatory Commission public meeting in October. Is Plainfield going back to the days when outsiders make Plainfield a drug buying place? I speak from a position of being there. In my past livelihood, I had to walk past both legal and illegal drug dealers and acknowledge the humanity in all of them in order to survive on the streets. And I even had to live near drug dealers and had to protest some of that in the town, just like many of you. Now the city wants to be a cannabis zone, and I really feel that I really question the policy and why the state of New Jersey is citing impact zones in neighborhoods that are minority populated. I've read what they're saying, but I really don't understand why a company like this, who is from outside of town, I don't think he would put it in his backyard. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Pewar. We appreciate your comments. Good evening, Mary Burwinkle. Your name and address for the record, please.
Mary Burwinkle, 1785 Sleepy Hollow Lane. I'd just like to second what Nancy Pivovar just said and just say, like, how disappointing development in Plainfield is turning out to be. I mean, there's no parking anywhere. It's crowded, and now we're still going to be the amenity desert that we are. Like, there, we're going to have cannabis and a whole bunch of other stuff. So anyway, thank you very much. I just wanted to agree with Nancy.
Thank you, Ms. Burwinkle. We appreciate your comment. Kathleen, I dare not say your last name because I'm pretty sure that I will mess it up completely, but your name and
It's
address
me.
for the record.
Hi, it's Kathleen Nietzsche, and I'm at 716 Huntington Avenue. And
Thank you.
I'd like to support Nancy Pivovar, and I agree with her solely. She did a good job describing that many people are feeling the same way. We've struggled with, I've been here my whole life, moved in, my parents moved here during the riots. We've tried to build up this town. We've tried to get out, like try to promote the good things about this town, and to have it become a cannabis like mecca. Like, what are they bringing to our town to make it look better? What are they bringing to this town to make other people look at us and say, oh, it's Plainfield? Instead of saying that, they should, oh, it's Plainfield. They should be excited about our town. And I feel like with bringing all this extra cannabis in here without bringing any other positive things is going to be a detriment to the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. We appreciate your comment. Are there any more public comments at this time? I'm not seeing any. May I have a motion to close public comment?
Moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. Moving right along to resolutions. Are there any questions pertaining to resolution 368-22 through 372-22?
Council
No.
President, motion to combine R 368-22 to R 372-22.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. Before we move forward,
I had something to say.
okay, one second, Councilwoman. I'll make sure you have the opportunity. In regards to the those particular resolutions, I believe we have the Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity chapter president, Mr. Sherlock Dow, in our meeting. Alikwe, can you pull him in?
Promoting him to panelist now.
Mr. Dow, you're on mute. Mr. Dow, your name and address for the record, and please feel free to give your comment.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sherlock Dow. Address is 8 Madison Court, Manalapan, New Jersey. And it's a pleasure to be here. And I just want to say thank you, President Good. As chapter president, it's a great honor and humility to accept these awards on behalf of Zeta Nu Lambda, chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. It has been our sincere privilege to be able to serve the Queen City, our chapter home, since we've been chartered here 78 years ago. Community service is the tenet of Alpha Phi Alpha because we know service is the rent we pay for living on this earth. I'd be remiss if I didn't take this time to thank Mayor Mapp, the entire City Council, Plainfield Office of Communication, Plainfield Department of Public Works, Plainfield Police and Fire Department, as well as the 21st Century Community Learning Center of Plainfield High School, for the various ways each has supported our work and partnership with us for all that benefits Plainfield. Please know the Brothers of Zeta Nu Lambda are committed to continuing our service to Plainfield residents as we look forward to working together with each and every citizen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dow. We appreciate the partnership that that has assembled with the Queen City. We look forward to continuing that partnership. And thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Have a good night.
President.
Have a good night. We also was expecting Mr. Leonard Trapp to be with us this evening. I don't see him. Our IT person, Liqua, said that she does not see him listed as the attendees. We also appreciate all the outstanding work that spanned over 2 decades of the community service that he has applied himself to. And we appreciate him as well as Elizabeth Tucker, another outstanding individual in the community who has done countless things in an enormous, unselfish way for others. I believe Councilwoman Terry Briggs Jones would like to say something, and I'm pretty sure I know what she wants to say. So you have the floor,
Okay.
Councilwoman Terry Briggs Jones.
He's reading my mind. I'm not on the elevator. But no, I just wanted to say that I'm glad that you put the item on for the football game for the young men as well as their coaches within the game. That was really, really inspirational. And I'm glad that I brought that to your attention for you to put that on.
And I'm
So I
glad
just
you
wanted
did
to make
too.
sure that I'd say something about that. And also, I wanted to also thank Brother Sherlock and his crew, because it was truly, truly a pleasure to get out there the first time in 102 degrees. I was out there in that sweat, but I did what I had to do. So I'm really, really looking forward also to working with the Alphas as well.
Thank you so much. And I'm pretty sure my colleagues will agree that it was a true victory
Yes.
for the Plainfield Cardinals.
Yeah.
And I was blessed enough to be in attendance. I'm pretty sure some of you were there. I didn't see anyone because it was so crowded, but we know who was there, and you know if you were there or not. At the end of the day, it was still a victory regardless.
Yes.
So we're grateful. We're grateful for that. May I have a motion to approve those resolutions?
We did that.
Already did it.
We did it. We did it already. Oh, I apologize. I'm sorry.
No.
Counted to my age. Okay, so we'll proceed to resolution R 373-22. Mr. Clerk, please.
Resolution 373-22, authorizing an appropriation to Ruderman and Roth.
Are there any questions regarding to 373-22?
Yeah, I have questions regarding.
Go right ahead, Councilman McKenna.
R373 down to R376 are all increases in fees to attorneys. And when I look back at what was approved, it was $252,000 for these 4 firms. And we're
and your question?
Well, I'll get to it.
Okay.
I'm done with the lead up to it.
Mhm.
We're adding 92,000 in these 4 resolutions. which is over 35% increase. So how did we miss that by so much? Because in some cases, this is the third increase.
Mr. Mancello?
Thank you, Council President.
Mhm.
Excuse me. Well, as you know, in dealing with any litigated matters or legal matters, it's an inexact science. We don't know how many cases are going to be filed each year. We don't know how long it's going to take to resolve our collective bargaining negotiations. We don't know how many workplace harassment investigations we're going to receive. So we base it on prior years, but it's always a little bit of more of an art than a science. This year, based on the volume that we've had, we've needed to do additional appropriations. I expect these appropriations will get us through the rest of the year. But it's not uncommon for us, as in any prior year, to come back for additional appropriations based on an increase in the workload for the legal department. It's always been my strategy when dealing with the legal department that we do appropriations on a more conservative basis and come back to council if we believe that is necessary. So I try my best to go on the lower side, and as additional appropriations are needed, to come back to council to explain why we needed those additional appropriations. So we never know exactly. We can't forecast when it comes to litigated matters what ultimately what's going to be required of us. But we do our best. In this case, we need that. Yeah.
In that vein,
Yeah.
We can't just be in the business of constantly throwing money to attorneys, and no offense to yourself.
No, I understand. Yeah.
But we do this every year, and every year we spend more than we did the prior year overall, depending on which bucket you're looking at. But overall, we spend more than we did the prior year. And every year we have the same conversation, and I could go back through my notes and see where you've mentioned, well, we have more litigation, we have more sexual harassment, whatever the issue is that's being raised. At what point do we look at the city and what it is we're doing and figure out how to overcome this issue? And by the way, and I mean no offense to you, Mr. Mancello, you're probably the wrong person to be in charge of that, because you are a recipient of some of these funds. But so I'm saying this, maybe it's more to B.A. Levinson and other department directors, is at what point do we look at this and say, okay, Plainfield compared to other cities of a similar size, employee headcount, et cetera, has a higher a dollar amount on litigation, has a higher workman's comp, has a higher payout. We do this every single year, and it's kind of the definition of insanity. And so I don't think just continuing to throw money at attorneys is always the answer. We certainly want to defend the taxpayers, but we also want to protect the taxpayers from having to continue with these grievances.
B.A. Levinson, would you like to chime in on this?
If I could also address that, though,
Okay.
Councilman, and I just want to just address this. We are at the mercy of certain state laws, that there's nothing we can do to get around it. So, for instance, if we are engaged in collective bargaining negotiations with 5 of our units currently, there is nothing we can do. The state and federal law requires us to engage in that negotiation. If it involves a workplace harassment investigation, we have certain state laws that require us to do certain investigations, which require attorneys to do those investigations. So I understand you're saying it's a definition of insanity, but the reality is that we are at the mercy of state laws that we have to comply with.
I totally get that.
Yeah.
I mean, a little less than half of this is for litigation. So it's not investigation, it's litigation, defense.
Sure. Yeah.
But the other side to this, and this probably is more in B.A. Levinson's sweet spot, because her primary background is in human resources, is that at what point do we start looking at the data here and finding where we have an issue, whether it's an individual or a department or whatever, and we focus on the training to eliminate or start to reduce the number of these violations that are occurring, whether they're arbitrary, valid. We don't need to get into all of that, because they certainly, we all know they vary. But I think the winner in this at the end of the day are attorneys. And
B.A. Levinson, would you like to chime in on this?
Standpoint of of the taxpayers and making sure we're doing the right things to protect their wallets.
I understand your question. Yeah.
So I'll speak, I'll speak on these because most of these are for labor related firms. They're for our firm who does our workplace harassment investigations, and our old labor firm and our new labor firm. And our old labor firm was really just handling cases that were trickling down from years past and we hadn't gotten decisions on. They still were being in the middle of being litigated, et cetera. And I will say that the current labor firm was definitely not expected to go. We were not expecting to be this late in the year and still in negotiations with 5 out of 7 unions. I mean, that's a real surprise to me. And when I was budgeting this with Mr. Mancello, I mean, I never would have guessed that we would be here where we are. If we had, you know, obviously if all of those had been done and back in, I think it was May or maybe even before that, when the other 2 closed, this is not a bill we would be seeing. And so since it is a negotiation year, I do think that, you know, that's a significant part of this, although I hear what you're saying about years past. And what I could say is that I think because my background is in HR, I am more apt to send things for an investigation than maybe previous BAs or, you know, maybe other people had been. I'm pretty quick to bring something to Mr. Mancello when somebody uses key words to me. And so I feel better. I feel that the city's in less of a liability when we have an outside independent person come in and do an investigation. And in my dual role, I'm not specifically, I'm more now in administration. And so I'm less neutral. I'm less of a neutral party. And so it's more important to have an outside investigator come in. Although I will say that since we've merged with the PNUA and we've taken an HR employee from there, she's actually doing trainings this week for workplace investigations. And I am really hoping to get her up to speed so that I can hand that off to her. That's the goal, because I understand a lot of them probably could we do it internally if I was in a less compromised role? Yeah, but you know, that's not the role that I'm in. So I think once that employee is ready to go, that's something that we should see a decrease in for sure.
Okay.
Thank you, B.
I
Levinson,
appreciate that
and
information.
thank
Can
you,
you tell me something though?
Mr. Mancello.
You mentioned something there, B.A. Levinson, about having to use the outside resources because you are compromised for sure. I mean, that's a reality. But is it reducing the payouts on the other side, or do you not have data around that? Because it sounded like maybe you felt the outside investigations helped alleviate the payout side.
Yeah, I feel that's why that's what I'm saying. I'm more apt to say not immediately, but if I get something I can't immediately say, this is not egregious, this is not persistent, this is not pervasive. If I could say, I'm not 100% sure, I want someone to do an investigation on that, because I don't want to be unnoticed. I don't want any of us to be unnoticed, and then the claim doubles and triples and grows. I want to have someone investigate it right away, because I'm trying to cut the liability on the other end, which is, yes, the payout, essentially.
And if I could just add one thing.
Council President,
Yeah.
Council President,
Mr. Mayor.
the administration has answered this question ad nauseum.
Okay, but
and so there's nothing further the administration.
The administration is ad nauseum. When I'm done answering my questions, I'm having a dialogue with B.A. Levinson. I don't understand why there's a cutoff.
First of all, Mr. Mancello started speaking and he was not finished.
Well, I
Mr.
actually
Mancello.
wasn't done either. So,
but he
it's a council
picked,
meeting, not a corporation council meeting.
Councilman McKenna, after B.A. Levinson was talking, Mr. Mancello began to chime in after she talked.
And then his boss jumped in to talk for him.
Okay, but I'm talking about Mr. Mancello. Okay.
So if Mr. Mancello had something to say, I'd like to hear it.
No, Mr. Mancello. Okay. So excuse me, Mr. Mayor. We're going to move to vote, please. Mr. Mayor, thank you. Ms. B.A. Levinson, thank you. Mr. Mancello, thank you for shedding some light on this particular issue here.
Council President, I motion to combine R 373-22 to R 376-22.
I'm sorry, there is a huge echo feedback. Councilman McKenna, would you please repeat what you just said?
Yeah, I motion to combine R 373-22 to R 376-22.
Second.
Thank you. All right, all in favor?
No,
Aye.
No.
Any opposed?
no, I'm opposed.
Any abstaining?
Council President,
Yes,
Or
Mr.
voting.
Mayor.
Mayor,
you cannot vote no on and I made this point the last time.
You did.
So I don't know how many times the same thing must be said. So the councilman ought to read the rules of order and not try to combine items and then vote no. That's out of order. You will have to redo this vote, and you can speak to the Corporation Council.
Yeah, the mayor is correct.
Sorry,
We
went through
established that
that.
last time. If something's going to be voted as part of a consent,
Gentlemen,
it
thank you.
has to be voted unanimously.
So I would like to have a motion for 373-22, and I need a
Thank you,
second,
Councilman.
please.
Thank you.
So
Please,
moved.
somebody speak.
Move.
All right, all in favor?
no,
Any opposed?
opposed.
Any abstaining? Mr. Clark, can you give me a roll call for 373-22, please?
Council members Briggs Jones,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Hockaday,
Yes.
McKenna,
No,
Mills Ransom,
Yes.
Vice President McCray,
Yes.
Council President Good.
Yes.
6 in favor, 1 opposed, resolution
Here,
passes.
just want to get stuff out there.
Okay, we're moving right along to 374-22. I need a motion and a second.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining?
opposed.
I have all in favor with the exception of Councilman McKenna, who's opposed.
Do we need a roll call, Mr. Clerk? Please do. I want one anyway.
Okay.
Council members Briggs Jones,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Hockaday,
Yes.
McKenna,
No,
Mills Ransom,
Yes.
Vice President McCray,
Yes.
Council President Good.
Yes.
6 in favor, 1 opposed.
375-22, and let's play nice, people. Are there any questions? If none, I need a second and a motion. A motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
opposed.
Mr. Clerk, another roll
Council
call,
members
please.
Briggs Jones,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Hockaday,
Yes.
McKenna,
No,
Mills Ransom,
Yes.
Vice President McCray,
Yes.
Council President Good.
Yes.
6 in
Point
favor,
of
1
order.
opposed.
Procedurally, do we need to have a roll call every time one person votes no? We know that it's 6-1.
Yeah, I want it though. That's the way I want to do things.
Okay, but I was
Tonight.
Council, yeah,
asking, was
yeah,
it procedurally necessary,
No,
not
it-
if you wanted, Councilman?
Council,
I-
I'll answer that. It's not required, but if the council president asks for it, then it.
And
then
I also appreciate.
And that's certainly fine. I
Council-
just wanted to know if it was procedurally necessary. Thank you.
And I appreciate Councilwoman Davis's question. So we're going to move to 376-22.
So
Okay, I need a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
opposed.
Any abstaining? Mr. Clark, you know what to do.
Council members Briggs Jones,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Hockaday,
Yes.
McKenna,
No,
Mills Ransom,
Yes.
Vice President McCray,
Yes.
Council President Good.
Yes,
6 in favor, 1 opposed.
thank you. We're moving to our 378-22. Mr. Clerk?
Resolution 377-22 requesting
Oh, I
approval. to
apologize.
amend Calendar year 2022 municipal budget.
Are there any questions? And if not, do we have a motion?
Moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. 378-22.
37822, authorizing transfers between the calendar year 2022 appropriations of the general fund of the city of Plainfield.
Are there any questions?
Yeah, I have
Yeah.
question. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Ms.
No,
Lee.
go ahead, Councilman. It's fine.
I'm just curious on how, so the way the resolution was written was a little different than it has been before, but I was able to parse it out. How did we miss this by so much with respect to looking at, some of them were smaller dollar amounts. I get that. And we transfer funds from one area that underspent to another area that needed the money. But fire department, 565,000, police department, 475,000, and then a large amount for sewer and solid waste. And these were all, I believe they were all salaried. The ones that I'm mentioning right now, there were others that were ONE, but and salaries, but these are large amounts. How did we miss this in the budgeting that requires, and we're talking, a couple $1 million, or I think it was $4 million or something that we're transferring around. How did we miss that by so much? Whoever wants to take it, I don't know if it's per department or.
B. Levinson, would you like to take that?
I could speak on that. So it's not actually, it is salary money, but both the police and the fire department are not over budget in their salary or their overtime. They're both in line with what was approved for 2022. However, when we did the budget this year, there was money that we put in different line items because we didn't know what we were going to settle upon with the unions in terms of a percentage increase for this year. So that money that we had sprinkled across the budget, because we couldn't come out and say, this is what we're going to offer, because obviously then the unions would know what we had, what our bottom line was. Now that money has to be put into salary and wages for police and fire so that we can hold that money. They haven't settled yet, but we need to hold that percentage. It's a 4% increase. It's now everybody knows because I've brought it to the table by now. It's a 4% increase for police and fire, and actually the entire city that was offered for 2022. And that 4% increase now needs to be brought into their S&W line. And then if they don't settle by the end of the year, then we have, we'll put it into we'll have to transfer it into next year's money so that they'll get the retroactive 4% should they decide to agree upon that number.
So an offer has been extended to both unions?
And the 4% has been extended to every single union in the city, yes.
But why are we doing the 4% now? Because there was a prior offer that was put out there that was rescinded. Why didn't we put the 4% 2 months ago?
4%'s been on the table since day one for 2022.
And we did the budget 6 months in. So why didn't we just move that then?
The budget 4% was on the table, but we were still in talks about. With police, there was another offer on the table that was related to their steps. But when we did the budget so we did the budget, you're saying we approved it in June, but we had already done it. It was already existed as a document back in March. So when we created it in March, this is how we, put the money in for the 4%. Now everybody knows it's 4%, and we just got to move it into police and fire for their actual line items.
So this could have been moved in August or September or October. It just didn't get done until now.
Well, it gets done when the budget transfers happen, which is November. But yeah, it could. I mean, if the budget transfers had happened at that time, it would have happened at that time, just with all the transfers, which is in November.
Okay.
Councilwoman Davis?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. You have the floor.
I have two questions. One, I know that we typically do budget transfers in November. Is there anywhere that says that budget transfers can only take place in November, or is there like a limit on how many times you can transfer money from one place to another?
Yeah, Councilwoman, yes, the budget transfers cannot take place legally until November.
Okay, thank you. And then the second question is, I know BA Levison, you said it's out on the table now that 4% was the offer extended, but we are still in negotiation, and it is a negotiation. So what happens if you all negotiate and you're able to negotiate something lower than 4%? What happens to all of this money?
I'm able to negotiate lower than 4% after we just had this discussion, then
you might be good.
Then I mean, then, you know, I think it's unlikely. But if it were to happen, this money would be in a trust reserved for that, and I think we would put it back into the budget, the fund balance. It would go into the fund balance, like the surplus account.
Thank you.
I need a motion in a second, please.
Move. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. Mr. Clerk, shall we move on, please?
Resolution 379, authorizing approval to amend Resolution 215-22, authorizing the implementation of an in-rem and person foreclosure.
Colleagues, any questions?
Yeah, Council President, motion to combine R379-22 to R383-22.
I need a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Before we vote on that, I have a question.
Go right ahead, Councilwoman Davis.
For the tax sales, a lot of these were done in error, and it looked like from the resolutions that they were done in error because the tax collector did not receive certain information. But my question is, what's the procedure that would allow the tax collector to not receive information that people have paid off their municipal bills, or people have, I know one of them was like the person paid their sewer bill or something and the tax collector didn't know about it, or they partially paid something and the tax collector didn't know about it. So what's the procedure that allows something like this to slip through the cracks?
BA Levinson, would that be you?
I'm gonna ask Director Morskill to speak on that. If you want, if not,
Either or, somebody jump in and answer that question, please.
It could be a simple thing as the bill was paid at the sewer office late. If the bill is paid a day or two before the tax sale and the information didn't get to the tax collector, it could be something as simple as that. And it was already on the list for sale and it went for sale, and then it was caught after. And that might have been the case with 2 or 3 of these, where one was partially paid and one was fully paid.
So I hear what you're saying, Director Morris-Gill, but I think my question is, how does somebody pay a bill at the sewer utility and the tax collector isn't aware of that? So don't we have processes in place where like when cash is collected, it has to go to the tax office? So what's the process in place? So when somebody pays a bill, that's not a simple just email over to the tax collector. Like, where's the disconnect in communication that allows errors like this to happen?
And this could be because the 2 offices were separate, but normally when the list is prepared and goes to tax sale and payments come in a day or 2 before, 1 or 2 payments might be missed. That payments made might be missed. The information might not be conveyed to the taxpayer, the tax collector. And this is just a simple case of 2 of those.
Okay, thank you.
With Councilwoman Davis being done with her questioning, I need a motion and a second, please.
There's already a motion and a second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. Mr. Clerk.
Resolution 384-22, authorizing the purchase of 4 2023 Ford Police Interceptor utility-based vehicles.
Are there any questions?
No, motion
I
to,
Councilman McKenna, I'm sorry. I didn't hear you.
The motion already
combined
hit the floor.
384-22 to 387-22.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. I believe we're at 388. Mr. Clerk, please proceed.
Resolution 388, designating AK2 Urban Renewal LLC as redeveloper for the redevelopment of certain properties in the city of Plainfield.
Colleagues, any questions? If there are none, we need a motion and a second.
Moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any
No.
opposed? Any opposed?
Opposed.
Any abstaining? Mr. Clerk, would you indulge me?
Council members Briggs Jones,
Yes.
Davis,
Yeah.
Hockaday,
Yes.
McKenna,
No.
Mills Ransom,
Yes.
Vice President McCray,
Yes.
Council President Good.
Yes.
6 in favor, 1 opposed, resolution passes.
Mr. Jallo, 389.
Resolution 389-22, authorizing the execution of an amended financial agreement for Leland Gardens.
Are there any questions? If none, I need a motion and a second, please.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. 390.
Resolution 390-22, designating Theritrue, New Jersey as redeveloper for certain properties in the city of Plainfield.
Colleagues, any questions? If there aren't any, I need a
Aye.
motion and a second. I'm sorry, Councilwoman Davis.
Yes. Director Field, earlier today I asked you about like the ratio of like in-town people who want to open up cannabis businesses and out of town versus out of town people that want to open up cannabis businesses. Can you kind of just speak to what the ordinance says and what are the benefits to the Plainfield community when people come into our city wanting to open up cannabis businesses?
Sure. So the first one, we have a total of 9 businesses that right now that are going for licenses. 2 of those are owned by Plainfield residents. The ordinance itself, in terms of our social justice, we look to hire at a minimum for employment 30% of the employees or 3 employees, whichever is higher, be from residents from the city. And also in terms of what we're looking at in equity, is that each of the employees, if they are from the city or looking from a re-entry program, that they're put on either a business management track or they're leading to gaining equity in the business. Does this answer your question, Councilwoman?
Thank you, Director Fields. It does. And to speak to the residents' concerns that they voiced earlier in public comment, I think for me, I think that sometimes it's easy to just image in your head of what you think a cannabis business is going to be like, or what you think it's going to be like, and bringing it to the neighborhood. But I've seen dispensaries around the state. I've seen dispensaries out of the state. And I think that the imagery that people have is not the reality of what it really is. I think that by bringing cannabis business to the city of Plainfield, not only does it put us on the map, right? It brings people in who may have never been to Plainfield before. It gives them a opportunity to see some of the other businesses and amenities that we have. And with Director Fields here under her direction, I think she's going to bring in even more businesses and amenities that residents are looking for. But I think it's easier sometimes to let our fear get in the way of the unknown or what's going to happen. But from the dispensaries I've seen, they haven't brought the element that people are describing in their public comment. I also think that it is very important to have cannabis businesses in municipalities that were directly affected by the war on drugs, because we know that cities like Plainfield, populations like Plainfield were disproportionately affected. So I am happy about the ordinance that we have and the direction that we're going in. And we've heard from the CRC that our ordinance is one of the model ones for the state. So thank you.
I need a motion in a second, please.
I actually had a question too.
Go right ahead, Councilman McKenna.
Mine are for both 390.22 and 391.22, and I'm just wondering. So 390 is for the addition of a cultivation license, and 391 is for the addition of a manufacturing license. But we've already approved or blessed other licenses. So how many licenses total are now in this location?
So we have a total of licenses right now that we have 9 licenses. So this is adding to the cultivation and the manufacturing license. We have 4 that fall under the 1 through 4 category. So those 2 are going under there. At this location, they're at the old Mack Truck building. This is the same developer going into that location. I can look, but I believe we have a total of 4 at this specific location.
4 different licenses approved.
Yes.
Okay.
At this location, yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. McKenna. Councilman McKenna, I need a motion in a second, please.
Moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Are there any abstain? Motion carries. Mr. Clerk.
391.22, supporting the location and operation of a cannabis cultivation business by Melician, New Jersey, LLC.
Colleagues, any questions?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? The motion carries. Mr. Clerk, 392.
Resolution 392, authorizing the award of contract to Top Line Construction.
Any
Council
questions?
President,
Go right ahead.
Motion to combine R 392-22 through R 396-22. However, I do have a question on one.
Okay, okay. I'm gonna put a motion on the floor first, if that's okay.
I think Councilwoman Davis seconded, but I'm not sure.
Oh, okay, all right. All in favor?
He has a question.
You can't do that.
Go ahead and ask your question. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Just clarity on 395-22, which is moving the funds from the Grant Avenue project because of the timing to miscellaneous milling and paving projects. Is there a list of what projects those will include?
Director Dabney?
Yes, there's a list of streets that we've been doing, streets and handicap ramps. We've been putting it in for the milling and paving project. Yes. And the 135, the numbers didn't change. Just as you know, it was just a transfer of the 135 due to the deadline of December. 135 was moved to the milling paving, right? As opposed to the other 135 in Capital 2 was moved to the other project for Top Line.
Right. So what streets do we mill and pave out of the 135?
No, that 135 is part of the $850,000 project that we did. You guys voted on last month.
But then we're taking this out.
135, yeah, it's going to stay the same at 850. We just move a 135. Just switch 135 and Capital 2 back.
Right. So what milling and paving are we going to be doing before the cold?
We started doing everything. It's just about complete. It's like 11 streets that were being done.
Oh, so we're approving something we already did.
We are just about finished with it. Yes.
Yeah.
And it's just, but you remember, I respectfully said you already approved it. You already approved the money. It's just a transfer. You approved the whole project. $850,000.
$850.
Yep. The total is $850. This 135 is being moved as part of the $850, just to stay with the line with the deadline. The 135 is just being switched. The other 135 is going to Capital 2 for the other project, the Western Avenue project. This 135 is moving to the milling and paving, so we can meet the deadline and finish out that grant of $135,000.
The total remains 850. It's just 135 of the funding source is a different funding source. A piece of the 850 is going to come from the county instead of capital.
Because otherwise you'll lose the other one. And
you lose the 135 with the deadline. So
okay, gotcha. Thank you.
It's been moved and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. Mr. Clerk, please proceed.
$397.
Resolution 397-22, recognizing November as American Diabetes Month.
Council President, motion to combine R397-22 to R341-22.
I need a second.
Wait, Councilman, can you repeat that?
What number?
The what? 341 or 401?
397-22 to 341-22.
There's no 341.
You mean
There is a
341.
341.
401?
So the previous vote was to combine R392-22 to R396-22.
Exactly.
And we
I think you
made
meant
the motion to
401,
approve.
Councilman.
We
Is that
did the
correct?
question and it was 7-0.
No, Councilman, I think you keep saying 341.
You meant 401. Is that correct?
401.
I said
401.
401.
When you say 401.
It's okay. I got you, Councilman.
Wait, what did I say?
Motion to
You said
approve.
341. You meant 401, correct?
No, I've got 341 on mine.
It should be
bottom.
401. It should be 401.
401.
I move we approve.
Oh, you know what? It should be 401, but it says 41. You're right. Thank you.
I move we approve
Second.
resolutions 397-22.
All in favor?
I had a question before
Okay.
we got to
Okay.
the paper.
Councilwoman Davis, please ask your question.
Thank you. Director Brown,
Mhm.
can you please speak to resolution 401-22 and some of the core services that are going to be available to residents through the neighborhood health services, and how are we going to get this information out to residents so they know about it?
So you're talking about 399-22, to be sure?
I was talking about the
401.
agreement with the neighborhood health services.
401-22.
That's 390.
Okay, so the neighborhood health services is a provider of several support systems for the city of Plainfield. One is they oversee the work that goes on in the health division because we do need a medical physician or a physician to oversee some of that work, particularly around vaccinations. And so that's part of what they do. They also do some of the work in schools that we're not able to do, but it is part of our mandate.
So how are we going to get the word out to residents?
This is part of the work that we do normally, so I'm not too sure what you mean by get the word out to the residents. So when it comes to documentation, that's something that we do internally, and we work with the Department of Health or CDC. When we work with the schools, we work through those schools, and that's how that information gets out. We don't do anything in particular. This is separate and above from our vaccination services or anything like that.
Got you. I was a little confused. I understand now. Thank you.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Mr. President?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, I think for the benefit of the public, it should be noted that in this section on the health and social services, the numbering actually says 340 and 341. And I believe those were meant to be 400 and 401. I don't think that correction was made. There was a lot of back and forth, but the actual agenda shows 340 and 341.
Yeah, I think the confusion is coming in because some of us are looking at the actual paper agenda and some of us are looking at the online agenda. And the online agenda has the numbering, and the numbering is off between the paper agenda and the online agenda.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the
even in
paper
terms of like what resolution numbers are which.
So just to clarify, on the printed agenda, it says 340-22 and 341-22, and that is erroneous. It'll be corrected to 400-22 and 401-22.
401-22.
But also, Mr. Clerk, on the printed agenda, it has the neighborhood health services as 399-22, but on the online one, it has it as 401-22. So
Councilwoman Davis is correct.
That would be correct.
Right, but what I'm saying is you're going to correct the paper one with the right numbers, but also the order on the paper agenda isn't the matching the order that's online as well. And I
Yeah,
think that's where all the
paper
confusion
one,
is coming
the
in.
paper one has neighborhood health as 399.
Those will be corrected.
Just so we're clear, because I think we're good on 97 and 98. Can you just tell us which one is 399, which one's 400, and which one's 401? So that
399 should be neighborhood health services, correct, Mr. Clerk?
Correct. If you're following the IQM2, those have the correct numbers and titles. The printed agenda will be made to reflect what's in the online version.
And it shall be corrected.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can you give me 2 seconds? Because if 399 is now 401 on IQM, then that's confusing.
399 is a resolution authorizing approval to accept the grant. That's 399.
399-22 is neighborhood health services.
No.
There's
Councilwoman, you and I are looking at the online one. That's why
So
we're seeing it as the grant.
I go off the paper.
And that's why I literally started this by telling the clerk that there was confusion there. And the more that people keep putting out numbers is the more that other people are going to be confused, because we're still looking at two different things. So Mr. Mincello, is our motion correct to proceed?
Absolutely, that's fine. Honestly, when it comes to numbering, as long as the clerk has clarified what it is, it's okay.
So
He's clarified it for the public, and I think we're able to move forward.
So
thank you, Mr. Mincello. So it's been moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. Mr. Clerk, take us to the next.
We now move on to ordinances. MC 2022-15 is an ordinance of the City of Plainfield approving the tax exemption in accordance with the 5-year exemption and abatement law, and authorizing the execution of a tax agreement with MBH Realty Urban Renewal LLC in connection with Block 248, Lot 4.
Council members, are there any questions? If so, go right ahead.
Yes.
Councilwoman Davis.
5-year abatement isn't something that we see often. So can you just explain for the benefit of the public what the 5-year abatement is and how this benefits the residents and how this differs from the normal pilot agreements we usually see?
Sure. So this is a 5-year abatement. It will give us 15% of the annual gross revenue for the entire 5 years. Just scroll down. The building itself, it's a 4-story mixed-use 12 market rate apartment building. It has about 3,100 square feet of commercial. So what we're looking at in terms of the revenue, instead of having a 30-year pilot like we typically see, and where it escalates from the first section would be years 1 through 10, then the next section would be years 11 through 20. Then the next section after that would be years 21 through 30, and we would get an escalating percentage of the annual gross revenue. We're getting 15% for the entire 5 years. So the benefit for us in general with going with this pilot, if we went with conventional taxes, the developer might not come to Plainfield.
Thank you.
Are there any more questions? I'm entertaining a motion to adopt this ordinance on first reading.
Moved. Second.
Mr. Clerk?
Council members Briggs Jones,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Hockaday,
Yes.
McKenna,
Yes.
Mills Ransom,
Yes.
Vice President McCray,
Yes.
Council President Good.
Yes.
That is unanimous. This ordinance has been adopted on first reading.
Mr. Clerk, proceed to MC 2022-53.
MC 2022-53 is an ordinance of the City of Plainfield and the County of Union, authorizing the execution of an amended and redevelopment agreement, and the execution of a financial agreement with 1100 SA Urban Renewal LLC and granting a tax exemption with respect to certain properties identified on the city's tax map as Block 623, lots 1 through 3 on the official tax map to the city of Plainfield and identified in the city's tax record respectively as 1100 through 1110 South Avenue, 1112 through 1114 South Avenue, and 1116 through 1118 South Avenue.
Council, are there any questions?
I just have one comment, and my opposition to this is not necessarily the development in that area, but the inadequate parking that is included in it. So that's my comment.
Okay, thank you, Councilman McKenna. I'm going to entertain a motion to adopt this ordinance
So moved.
on its first read. I need a second.
Second.
Mr. Jallo?
Council members Briggs Jones,
Yes.
Davis,
No.
Hockaday,
Yes.
McKenna,
No.
Mills Ransom,
Yes.
Vice President McCray,
Yes.
Council President Good.
Yes.
5 in favor, 2 opposed. This ordinance has been adopted on first reading.
Proceed with 2254.
MC 2022-54 is an ordinance of the City of Plainfield and the County of Union, authorizing the execution of a financial agreement with 1112 North Urban Renewal LLC and granting a tax exemption with respect to certain properties identified on the city's tax map as Block 402, Lot 5, and designating in the city's tax records as 1112 through 1118 North Avenue, Plainfield, New Jersey.
Are there any questions, council colleagues?
I have a question.
Go right ahead, Mr. McKenna.
For Director Fields, and I just want to clarify the way that I read it, because I read through the developer's application and what they were asking for, and then what was finally put in the agreement, which went from a 3-phase. They were asking for 3 phases of increase in their pilot to what really comes out to roughly 5, right? In the agreement that is before us to vote on. So it goes from 1 to 10 years, and then it goes 11. It goes a 10-year tranche, a 5-year tranche, another 5-year, a 1-year, and a 3-year, if I read it correctly, starting at 11% of gross revenue and ending at 13% gross revenue or 40% of regular taxes, whichever is higher.
Right, so we are still looking at 3 phases that it's escalating from. It's going 11, 12%, and then 13%.
So in the agreement, and I have to find it here, it is much more lengthy. It is much more drawn out. It does a 10-year, a 5-year, a 5-year, a 1-year, and a 3-year. Because I compared both. The application, which is my assumption is that is what the developer is asking for versus what we end up negotiating and agreeing to.
Okay, so what we agreed to was the 11, 12, and 13. So this was a part of the back and forth, and I'm checking to see if there's something incorrect in the agreement.
I'm trying to find it myself right now.
While we're waiting, does anyone else have any questions? Okay.
Council President, this is Valerie.
Hi, Valerie. How are you?
I'm good. MSB is on the line and they may have the agreement in front of them.
So I'm looking at it now. If you go to 4, I had to pull it back up because I had too many tabs open, but it's 4.04. So it's got commencing 10 years, 11% of annual gross revenue. Then it goes 11th year.
Director Jackson, would that be Aisha Cooper?
Yes, that is Aisha Cooper.
Aisha Cooper, feel free to jump in. I suggest immediately, if you can.
I just wanted to explain the breakdown. What we've done is included the statutory increases of 20, 40, 60, 80%, which are required by the statute. Some financial agreements break those down into 2 separate sections, but we found that it's easier for the tax assessor if we just place them all in the same section of the agreement and then break it down so that you have the 3 percentage changes of 10, I want to say 11, 12, and 13, and then slide in the 20%, 40%, 60%, and 80% statutory.
Okay, so then if I break it down that way, because the statutory kicks in at 16 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's where you get the 20, 40, 60, right?
Yep.
So instead of the application being 1 tranche of 10%, second tranche phase, I don't want to say tranche, phase of 11%, and the third phase of 12, we're starting at 11, 12, and then 13, or the statutory rate for those last 3 tranches, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
That's exactly it.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
I'm entertaining a motion to adopt this ordinance on first reading.
So move.
Second.
Mr. Clerk?
Council members Briggs Jones,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Hockaday,
Yes.
McKenna,
Yes.
Mills Ransom,
Yes.
Vice President McCray,
Yes.
Council President Good.
Yes.
That is unanimous. This ordinance has been introduced on first reading.
Proceed, please, Mr. Clerk.
Ordinance 2022-55 is an ordinance designating the Plainfield City Hall Library as the Elizabeth Urquhart Library.
Motion to approve.
Can I just ask everyone to just give a round of applause for this, please? Right on camera. This is exciting. This is epic and well-deserved. So many times this happens when people are no longer with us. But we're glad that she is here to see this happen. I'm entertaining the motion.
Question about this, by the way?
Sure, go right ahead.
Is there funding in place? Does the library have the funding to do the signage?
It's the City
November.
Hall
It's
Library.
It's balance movement month.
It's the City Hall Library. So
It's
Oh, the
just
City
being
Hall
renamed.
Library.
Mr. Mancello, it's just being renamed, correct?
It's being renamed, and I'm certain that the administration will find some way to commemorate it with a sign.
Like a
I
really nice permanent one.
just want to commend the administration and the mayor. We don't always agree on everything, but the mayor's ability to honor people in the city and the administration's ability to honor legends, I would go as far to say, in the city of Plainfield, and to do it in ways that it can be seen by everyone is commendable. Mrs. Urquhart, former council president Urquhart has really laid a path that we all follow. She is the shoulders on which every council member on this screen stands, and I can't think of a better person to have the City Hall Library named after, as she tells me all the time that you need to be able to recite chapter and verse with anything that's going on in the city. So to have the City Hall Library named after her is phenomenal. And a kudos to the mayor and his administration for really recognizing Plainfield legends and Plainfield greats and being able to applaud them and give them their flowers while they can smell them.
and like she said, a legend, but not just a legend, a living legend. So kudos to the administration to piggyback off of Councilwoman Davis. I'm going to entertain the motion to adopt this ordinance on its first reading, and I'm going to need a second and a roll call from you, Mr. Clerk.
I have a motion from Councilman McKenna with a second from Councilman McCray.
Let's do a roll call.
Council members Briggs Jones.
Yes.
Davis.
Absolutely, yes.
Hockaday.
Yes.
McKenna.
Yes, indeed.
Mills Ransom.
Yes.
Vice President McCray.
Yes.
Council President Good.
Without a doubt, yes.
That is unanimous. This ordinance has been adopted on first reading.
We now, believe it or not, have gotten down to general comments. A total of 60 minutes has been allocated for all public comments to be presented, and each speaker will be allotted 5 minutes. If you wish to be heard, please hit the hand icon and to be recognized, and you will be unmuted. And once you've been unmuted, you give your name and address for the record, and each speaker again will be given 5 minutes. The floor is now open. Michelle, your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Michelle Judkins. I reside at 356 Emerson Avenue. I'm coming to the board once again. For 2 years, I have been trying unsuccessfully to have a handicap in front of my house for my 99-year-old blind husband, who also has congestive heart failure. It has become unsafe to leave our home and walk to the driveway, as he had a fall and hit his head on the cement about a week and a half ago. I ride through this city. The reason why they told me I could not get it is because I have a driveway. I've rode through this city and saw handicap signs in front of people's houses who also have driveways, so I can't understand how that stands. Back in the summer, I've seen public events where streets was blocked off, and these city officials can ride up in their public cars and get barricades opened up for them while they laughing and smiling and have 2 feet and can walk, while I'm parking a block away, pulling out wheelchairs to assess my husband. I know that's different, but I pay taxes and I should be able to get something in front of my home. We sit in this meeting and hear about changing this and changing that all the time. And why can't, I mean, we're asking for 1 parking space in this entire city of Plainfield where we live. I've reached out to the Association for Disabilities Acts, and I don't even feel like I should have to take it that far to reach out to attorneys to help me with discrimination and stuff like that. This is ridiculous. My husband fell. Thank you, Terry Briggs, for contacting us to see if he was okay. Because I asked a council person, did you know he fell? They said yes, but did they contact us to see if he was okay? No. I am really tired of this, and I need to know how to make appeal so that my husband can safely get from our door to the car. He went out voting. He still does his obligations to this city. And I'm just tired of coming before this board for something that I think he deserves. I see signs in this city for council people and reserved for this one and reserved for that one who have 2 feet and is healthy and can walk. Yet, because you're a council person or because you're this person, you get privileges. I just don't think it's fair when the disabled can't get a privilege to be able to safely walk from their front door to a parking space, because walking across the grass where there's dips and bumps and his feet fell in a hole and he hit his head on the cement has become unsafe. I spoke to the mayor's office. I spoke to a council president. I spoke to the police director. I spoke to the assemblywoman, and I still have not gotten anywhere. And I think this is ridiculous. My husband is a member of this community for almost 100 years. He serves a business that helps everyone in this community. And we talk about recognizing people and giving people their flowers when they can spell them. My husband can't get something safe to walk out the door. I'm done.
Thank you, Michelle. Are there any more comments at this time? I don't see any hands raised.
One just.
Kathleen.
Hi,
Good
it's
evening.
Kathleen
Good
Nietzsche.
evening.
Hi.
Good evening again. Mhm.
Good evening. It's Kathleen Nietzsche. I'm at 716
Yes.
Huntington Avenue. I want to do a shout out and thank our first responders, paid firemen and paid policemen, and the volunteer rescue squad. We are so lucky to have them serve and give their dedication to our Plainfield residents. Come high any time in their life, they put their family behind them and help us out. A city with the population of Plainfield should be providing adequate, if not better, rescue squad services to our residents. It's become to my attention that there's a thing called mutual aid, and mutual aid is for when there's an emergency in a town and the other towns come and cover each other and they help us out. A city our size should be known as giving mutual aid to our surrounding towns. Is there data available to say what are we doing in terms of Plainfield giving mutual aid to our surrounding towns and becoming the go-to experts as a rescue squad services versus how many times we are asking for help? And if we are asking for help more than we are giving help, is there anything being done to make that switch, or at least make it so that we are self-preserved? I wanted to say thank you to Councilwoman Ashley Davis for clarifying the cannabis business. It is my hope that these businesses do bring in extra revenue to our town and do bring a positive atmosphere to our town and for all of our area. I'd also like to say, I would hope that they would also have those the cannabis businesses, in addition to any other new businesses or developers, give money to our town so that we can make sure that all of our first responders are given money for their additional services adequately. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you so much, Kathleen. Have a good evening. Appreciate your comments. Dan Rossin, good evening. Your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, Dan Rossin, 1220 Watchung.
How are you?
I'm sorry?
How are you this evening?
I'm very good, thank you, sir.
Good.
So my comment is actually in regards to your decision to continue with online meetings until at least the end of the year out of an abundance of caution. So out of an abundance of caution, here we are meeting on Zoom for another city council meeting. And I suppose we're supposed to be grateful that that the president of city council is looking out for our health and safety. But I have a couple questions about that. Where was the abundance of caution on Thursday, October 13th, when 4 city council members, 2 of whom voted against in-person city council meetings, showed up indoors for the cannabis conversation meeting? And where was the abundance of caution on Tuesday, October 17th, for the Plainfield Board of Education strategic planning meeting? Several city council members were there again, 2 of whom voted against in-person city council meetings. Now, I'm very grateful that all of those people are at those meetings because I support those initiatives too. I was there. But there were other events, and those are just the ones that I was at as well. But can someone explain that science to me? The science that says those indoors meetings are safe, but we need to exercise caution for in-person city council meetings. In closing, I'd like to talk a little bit about the election that we just had. The people of Plainfield are paying attention to what's going on in these meetings and the decisions that are being made. This year in our elections, 3 incumbents were defeated, 1 city council and 2 Board of Education positions. That is not an easy thing to do. That doesn't happen that much unless people are unhappy. That wasn't a fluke. That is the future. We are watching and we are voting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rossin. We appreciate your comment. Have a good evening. Are there any more public comments? Public comment is now closed. Motion to adjourn.
Council President, I do have a question for, I don't know if it's going to be BA Levinson or Director Brown or somebody else, but can you give us
just so we're clear, public comment is closed.
Yeah.
So I see. Okay. All right. I was looking at something. Go right ahead, Councilman McKenna.
Just trying to get a status on conversations, and I'm sure they're lengthy and ongoing and complex and confusing and all the rest with the rescue squad, if at all.
Is that something you're prepared to answer, VA Levinson, or can this take place offline to answer any of the council's questions, or especially with
and we can talk, you know, during the week if you prefer to just get some info together.
I think that's a great idea because I think we would all like to know, VA Levinson, what the status is of that. So not just so much Councilman McKenna, but I think we're all kind of concerned of what direction that's going in.
I appreciate
my internet cut out.
Okay. All right.
Do you want me to repeat the question?
Yeah, I didn't hear the question. You were all
sorry.
frozen.
I could tell you did seem a little confused. So, I was asking what conversations you have had or are having, and I'm sure they're complicated and you know, layered with the rescue squad.
And then I was saying that if you needed some time to get that information together, that not only would it be beneficial and to answer some of his questions, but the entire governing body, I can assure you, are concerned about what the status is and what's going on with that. So if
I'll send out the email.
Okay.
I'll send out the email this week with the latest.
Okay. And then I just had one other question, and it's really just a policy thing because it might be helpful for the public. Going into City Hall last Thursday, I went in, I think it was Thursday, and I was handed a mask by the officer at the desk who was not wearing a mask so that I could wear the mask in departments that were not wearing masks. Is it a mandatory mask policy in City Hall? And if so, why am I being handed a mask by a maskless person?
So
that's a good question. What's the
I can answer that.
Mm-hmm.
Could you hear me?
Yeah,
yes, we can hear you.
You're just a little you're a little slow, like delayed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know what. Yeah, I don't know what just happened. The policy is that employees do not have to wear masks when they're at work. However, we do ask residents when into the building to be masked.
Okay.
And we ask everybody, employees and non-employees, to please do a temperature check before you enter the building.
Oh, I was doing. That's the first thing I.
Yeah, that's for everybody.
Put my face at. Excellent. All right. Well, thank you. The rest of you, I know we got like 60% of the people on this panel are down in Atlantic City, so you guys have a good time tonight. Hope we didn't keep you too late.
I'm home. Motion to adjourn.
Moved.
Second.
On the elevator, leave me alone.
Well, Barry's frozen. What do you do when Barry's frozen?
Adjourn. Motion to adjourn. Do I have motion to adjourn?
You want another one?
So
I can't.
second and third.
All in favor?
Aye.